Testing, 1, 2. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's media conference. We have a great event this Saturday on Paramount Network starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'd like to just start with some of the fighters that are here today. I'd like to introduce Dylan Dennis, who will be making an MMA debut against Kyle Walker. Welcome, Dylan. Next, we have undefeated Neiman Gracie, who will meet Javier Torres in the welterweight division. The third main event card features Rafael Lovato Jr., who was originally slated to fight John Salter, who could not make it due to injury, had to pull out. He'll be fighting Gerald Harris. Thank you, Gerald, for taking the fight on last-minute notice. Moving up to co-main event, we have Emmanuel El Matador Sanchez from Duke Rufus's gym, who will be facing Sam Cecilia at featherweight division. This bout could have title implications. And I mean, these two men really have been the icon of the sport for the last, 15 years. And this is a continuation of our World Heavyweight Grand Prix tournament. Really proud to introduce Frank Mir and Fedor Emelianenko will be the main event on Saturday at the Allstate Arena. So at this point, I think we should just open it up for questions. So let's start with the media.
Guys, if you raise your hand, CJ and I have microphones here.
Scott, this main event is obviously one that fans have talked about for a long time, like probably a dozen years. Can you talk about kind of the importance of being able to put it together now, even if it wasn't, 8, 10, 12 years ago?
You know what I mean, and I think let's address that because, the reason why this fight didn't happen because, they were fighting for two different organizations at that time. And, there's no co-promotion back then. So you're right, this fight would have been great. But I think it's going to be even greater. And I think both of these guys are, at the point in their career where this is a must-win. This has title implications moving forward in the Grand Prix tournament. And I'm really excited to see that. When we put this fight together, when we started this tournament together, the fight in the back of my mind was this fight. This is the first fight. This was the fight that was supposed to happen in January in L.A. But Frank wasn't available. Fedor had some type of procedure on his nose, so we pushed it to April, and here we are. And I'm really excited. The fans are excited. If you've looked at the digital pieces our digital team has put out, man, following Fedor, following Frank, it's been unbelievable. And I'm really, really excited to see that fight because this was this is what the tournament was all based off of.
Saying that, though, and I think you've addressed this in the past, that the pairings were sort of just kind of luck of the draw. Is that true? Or, would it have been better for these guys to have met potentially in the final? Or was the first round the way to do this?
I'll tell you, one of the things, and that's a good question, but I'll tell you honestly, one of the things I've learned in this business is when you can make a fight, you make the fight, because there's no guarantees that fight will happen later, whether it's in a tournament or a single match. There's no guarantees in this sport. People get hurt all the time. Things happen. And so, to me, we had the opportunity to pair this up, and I said, let's get it on.
And I'm wondering if you could address the co-main event. I know Emmanuel has said that he would like to be next in line for the featherweight title with a win. Sam has said that he'd like to build a little bit of a resume. I'm sure he'd take a title fight if you gave him one if he wins. But Can you talk a little bit about the significance of this particular fight in terms of the title picture? I know you've got a title fight coming in the next month or two, but just the importance of this fight.
Yeah, this fight, we're going to watch it carefully and very closely. And when I think about Emmanuel's, performances in Bellator, he's been amazing. And so, we're going to take a look at this fight, and Sam's a tough kid. We're gonna keep a close eye on it, and then that's something we'll determine after. Go back and talk to my guys, and then we'll reshuffle the deck. But by all means, I think that the winner, could clearly be somebody that fights for the title in the next sometime this year.
Cool. Thank you so much, Gerald. What are you doing here? Right?
That's a great question.
You're supposed to be retired, we all thought.
Well, honestly, I retired because I kind of felt like my career wasn't going anywhere. I was just feeling like I was peaking, and I tore my Achilles tendon. So once I did that, I had to take a few months off, surgery, rehab, fought 2 times, and talked to my wife and said, hey, let's just live a normal life. And I'm teaching high school, I own a gym, and life is good. I mean, no complaints. But I keep watching my friends fight, and it's just killing me. I'm really good friends with Chael Sonnen, King Mo, Rampage, and I'm just watching these guys do their thing, and we're all similar age. And I was sitting on the couch, I was like, babe, I could do it. Got back into training, and just got a phone call. And I'll be honest, the first time I got it, I turned it down. And as soon as I hung up the phone, you know, my gut was like, dude, do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm super happy to be here. I was literally on my couch on my little like app. I'm too cheap for cable, so I get the little app said, you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I was trying to like DVR this event, and I end up being on it. So, man, it's amazing. This is the best card I've ever been on.
So are you saying you turned down this fight this week, and then you called them back
I
and
got
said,
the
okay,
call
I'll change my mind?
Tuesday, sitting on the couch eating donuts. You know what I'm saying? It was my fat day in my little training. And I was like, man, I just ate a donut, man. I can't fight on Saturday. The one day I choose to eat something fat. And but I'm fine. No, I'm in shape. I've been training my butt off. And it was just the natural instinct going, I want to be ready. This is Bellator. I can't take a last-minute fight. But mentally, I'm prepared. I'll tell you something, and a lot of fighters will tell you that mentally, short notice fights are a lot more fun, a lot less stress. If I had 8 weeks to think about Lovato, it's just a long time watching video, training, and then look what happened to him. His opponent backed out at the last minute, you know. So I'm fine. It's mentally a lot easier, but physically it's going to be a lot harder.
And are you here for good this time?
Oh hell yeah!
Until the next time you're ready to.
It wasn't a. It was. I don't want to say one and done. I went into this going, hey, I want to put on a good impression, and hopefully you guys will keep me around. This is literally the only organization I've never fought for. I've always wanted to fight for Bellator. I've never said anything bad about them. But whenever I was released from the organization I was with, it was kind of a tough time for the two. And I can understand why they didn't sign me, because I was kind of like leftovers at the time. But years have passed, and I have a great relationship with a lot of the staff here. Mike Hogan. It's just kind of crazy. I mean, I was a little starstruck when I met Mr. Coker. I mean, it's just great to be here. So, and I got to take a picture with Fedor. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And for Mr. Lovato, can you talk about the changes that you have to go through adjusting to a new opponent on just a few days' notice in a situation like this?
Well, I think the hardest part is when you wake up in the morning on Tuesday and you get the news that you don't have an opponent, and you're kind of left in limbo for a little while. But I just want to give a massive thank you and huge respect to Gerald for taking the fight, and for Bellator for putting everything back together again in such a short amount of time. I didn't have to sleep another night wondering what was going to happen. Within a few hours, they were able to put it all together. So I think the change of opponent worked out about as good as it possibly could to still have such a quality, reputable fighter such as Gerald. The Salter fight was, I think, a very big fight, with title contentions, lining up for the winner. And so I was definitely, bummed at first, but now I think, we still have a very exciting fight, and everything's worked out really well. Stylistically, they're a lot different. Gerald is much more explosive, but still similar wrestling background. So, thankfully, everything I think worked out about as good as it possibly could for me.
Dylan, this is your first MMA fight. How does it feel different than preparing for a jiu-jitsu match? More or less confidence, more or less butterflies? What's different?
I wouldn't think it was different. It's the same thing. It's the same recipe. Work your ass off and you get the results. So it's the same thing in that sense, but it's just different in the media sense and everything like that. But it's just adjusting. I want to adapt to every situation, so I'm just going with the flow and just feeling everything out. It's my first time, but I feel prepared. When I was in the back, it felt like a funeral. Everybody was kind of daunting, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? I feel great. I feel ready to go. I feel fresh, and I'm going to take this man out.
Question for Frank. Now that the fight is close, do you feel very anxious to get in there and finally perform? And what's necessary for you to get out of this performance?
I think everybody as a fighter, we're always nervous to perform at our best because, hey, look, just like Scott was referring to earlier, winning and losing, sometimes not really in our control. The other guy could have a great night, things happen, cuts, bad decisions. But the one thing that is within our control is performing. I think that's the thing that all fighters get most angry about. I would be much happier losing a fight, and I fight my best, what I'm capable of. I can live with that. If I go out there and I fight like garbage and don't perform up to my ability, that's a nightmare. And then I have 4 more months, 6 months before I can do it again to go out there and redeem myself. That's much harder for a fighter psychologically to deal with, is a bad performance. So I'm nervous for every competition because I want to showcase what I know that I'm capable of. But like all fighters, I know some days I go in the gym and I look like, Zeus incarnate, Thor, I'm a god. And there's days I've gone to the gym and you don't look very good. You're off, your timing's down. You're like, man, that shit, I missed a move, I got taken down. What the hell's going on? So that's the part that's makes you apprehensive. You're like, well, I want to make sure that I have, I tell people this is the mind-wrecking part of our sport. All of us here have gone to work every day for the last couple months, but we're going to be judged upon one 15-minute period of performance. So you can train like garbage, show up, hang out with your girl and stuff and not go to train and win, and that's all that matters to the audience, to the crowd. Or I can do everything correctly, and I've been there. You do everything 100%, you ate right, you dieted right, you trained right, you showed up to every practice, you go out there and all of a sudden you juked when you should have jived, you get a knee up the gut, and all of a sudden you're like, it's over with. Go home, see you in a couple more months. And that's the part that makes us insane.
Thank you. Also, Scott, the numbers have been trending very well for Chicago. Are you looking to make this an annual event and possibly a pay-per-view in the future?
Yeah, this event, Chicago's always been good to us, and we, even back in the Strikeforce days, but we've always brought up a pretty big card here, and I think that once a year we'll come to Chicago and put on a great fight for the fans.
And a question regarding Fedor. Is going to be a much larger audience. You'll be able to view this fight since it's on cable TV, especially in Russia. Will there be a much larger audience? Most of his fans, will they be available to watch this fight since it's on cable TV and not pay-per-view?
Вопрос, будет ли больше аудитории, так как этот матч будет показываться в эфире, а не по платному или по кабельному, и будет ли больше болельщиков в России, как вы считаете?
Ну, конечно, будет больше болельщиков из России. Все будут болеть, будут смотреть эти соревнования.
Well, certainly there will be much more fans, and it will be available for much bigger crowd, and there will be a lot of fans in Russia who will be watching this fight.
В России ММА, в частности, Bellator, очень популярны. Поэтому, хоть и рано утром будет трансляция, но я думаю, что очень много будет людей смотреть.
MMA in Russia is very popular nowadays, especially Bellator, which is very known. And in spite of the fact that the show will be like early in the morning in Russia, still there will be a lot of people watching.
So this fight will air live on Match TV, is my understanding.
Gentlemen, Mr. Coker, first of all, could you just explain, a year ago came here to Chicago and it was Quinton Rampage Jackson and Mo Lawal. Can you talk about the growth of Bellator over that last 12 months, given what we've now got an incredible card, and how the organisation has maybe come on in those 12 months?
I'll tell you, it's something we're really proud of, and none of this would be possible unless we had Paramount Network. And there's one gentleman, Mr. Kevin Kay, who really loves MMA. I always talk about this story, but he's the one that greenlit Ultimate Fighter back in 2005. And without his support, where would all these fighters be? Where would MMA be? Where would we have this audience today that we have? I mean, so really, I looked at Kevin as one of the pioneers of the sport because he loved it, he gave it a chance, and it worked, right? And so here we are today. And when I think about Bellator, not just over the last year, Gareth, but I'm talking over the last 3 years, I think we've had phenomenal growth in a lot of different areas. And one is the fighter, development. One is the fighter recruiting. One is, maintaining the fighter roster. I mean, look at the roster from 3 years ago to today. It doesn't look anything like what it was back then. And so, we have a great TV deal with Paramount. We have some some fun things we're going to announce maybe before the end of the year for distribution. We'll talk about that later. But, I'm proud of the company. I'm proud of the work. And I'm proud of the staff that we have. They're doing a very good job.
Thank you. A question for the Frank Mir. Frank, great to have you back. You look in great shape, 45 pounds lighter than maybe 3 or 4 months
300 pounds
ago.
didn't look good on me, huh?
I
pulled it off
great.
okay.
You pulled it off great. Is there any greater motivation after 18 years in the sport and 2 years away than coming back to face the guy who they call the last emperor, a lot of people feel is the greatest of all time in the heavyweights in mixed martial arts? Is there any greater motivation than coming back against this guy?
No, actually, and it really was a blessing. At first, when I first got the call, honestly, I didn't want the first fight back. 2-year layoff. I'm also a strategist. It didn't seem like a good idea. I'm like, maybe throw me, I wouldn't mind a softball, like throw me a little underhand pitch, maybe the first swing, Like, nah, we're going to give you Fedor. And then when I understood that it was a tournament style, I'm like, well, it'd be nice if this worked out that we were in the finals together. But, there's 6 other guys that don't want to cooperate with that process. And they're going to try to screw this up. So it made sense that if I want this fight, it had to happen now. And so, it helped me get really motivated because I've actually taken my nutrition and everything a lot more serious than I ever have in the past. Sitting staring at photos of yourself being fat for the last couple of years bugged me. But if I'd have been fighting probably some young up-and-coming guy that no one really knew, I don't know if I'd have had the same motivation as fighting Fedor, knowing that I'm fighting a legend of the sport, somebody who I still feel has it, A lot of guys, it's funny, they're coming after me going, well, you're not fighting the same Fedor. I'm like, really? I don't know, man. Did you guys see him hitting the bag? You see him moving around? That right hand he threw at Mitrione was lightning quick. It just happened to be that Mitrione threw a hook at the same exact time. And that's the nature of heavyweight fighting, is that we have the highest knockout percentage of any of the weight classes. It's just, you get guys that are 240, you wrap our hands, people fall down if you connect. And another fight that I always alluded to when people try to ever question his motivation, whether he wants to fight anymore, is the Maldonado fight. And everybody goes, well, you saw he fought Maldonado. It's like, yeah, I saw a guy that got tagged really hard and was going to get paid either way and still bit down on his mouthpiece and fought back. He fought back for 2 more rounds. If somebody didn't have a motivation to fight anymore, why keep fighting back? Why keep taking that abuse? If anything, he turned into a young man all over again, and it wasn't the most strategic fight in the world. He showcased nothing but heart. So seeing that, I see a guy who's still extremely dangerous, somebody that motivated me, and you can see from my appearance, for the last 4 months, I've taken this extremely seriously.
A question, thank you, Frank. Question for you, Fedor. How do you feel about Frank Mir and this being called, the meeting of 2 of the greatest heavyweights of all time, and what Frank's saying about that he's incredibly motivated because it's you he's coming back to face after 2 years away?
Федор, что вы чувствуете по поводу вашего боя со Фрэнком? Многие называют это как бы одной из величайших битв величайших бойцов. И у Фрэнка очень большая мотивация вот на этот бой. Что вы чувствуете по этому поводу?
Конечно, я очень рад, что мы встретимся с Фрэнком. Долгие годы этого не удавалось, потому что мы выступали в разных промоушенах, но Фрэнк один из лучших бойцов, один из великих бойцов.
Certainly, I'm very happy, to meet Frank in this very fight because it's been a long time. People were waiting for this very fight, but we worked in different promotions, so that's why that was not possible. But nowadays, I'm really very happy.
Я знаю, что многие наши фанаты, они очень ждут, наши любители ММА, они очень ждали долго этого боя, и спасибо Скотту Кокеру, что он организовал этот бой, что мы встретимся с Фрэнком. Он, я вижу, находится в замечательной форме, и думаю, тем интереснее будет бой.
I know that a lot of our fans had been waiting for this very fight for a long time. And I would like to thank Scott Coker for that very opportunity, and I will be happy to meet Frank in the cage, and I can see that he's in great shape. So that's going to be interesting fight, I hope.
Another question for Fedor. Now, Frank obviously has an incredible ability. MMA is about a different armory, lots of different skills. Frank obviously is renowned for his ground fighting as well as his stand-up from the southpaw stance. But is there a concern about Frank wanting to take this to the ground very quickly because he may not want to face your flying fists?
Наблюдая как бы за Фрэнком и знаю манеру Фрэнка, я так думаю, что вы знаете, что Фрэнк очень хороший в партере и хороший в стойке. И вызывает ли какую-нибудь озабоченность, вы думаете, будет его намерение перевести игру в партер, перевести бой в партер, чтобы ускользнуть от вашего летящего кулака?
Вы хотите, чтобы я рассказал вам всю стратегию?
Do you want me to tell you all the strategy right now?
Yes. Ну нет, на самом деле я всегда говорил, что нужно бойцу ММА нужно быть универсальным и одинаково хорошо себя чувствовать как лежа, так и стоя.
Well, I always say, and I consider that the MMA fighter has to be the universal one, so he has to be good both in stand-up and at the ground as well.
Поэтому посмотрим. Бой можно предполагать одно, но бой может пойти совсем по-другому.
So we'll see. We can actually propose, but the fight can go in different direction.
Потому что я готовился. Допустим, моя команда имела определенную стратегию, одну стратегию Фрэнка, команда Фрэнка другую стратегию. Вот кто сможет навязать свое, кто будет себя чувствовать хорошо, стоя, лежа, неважно как, ну, кто будет лучшим, тот, наверное, победит. Кому Бог даст.
So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll leave. That was. We'll live, we'll see. That was the phrase from the audience. The answer of Fyodor, that his team has, when he worked out, training, preparing for the fight, so his team had one strategy, and the team of Frank, maybe has another strategy. So during the fight, we'll be able to see which strategy will be, best, and it will be seen, if it will be, in stand-up or in the ground. So we'll see.
Question over there.
For Mr. Gracie, you bring an undefeated record into the cage. Your uncle laid the foundation for the sport in the UFC. How much pressure is on you? Where do you see yourself going? Will your legacy be complete without a title shot? There's obviously the family name is on the line. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I think I used to the pressure. I've been competing since I was 12 years old and carrying the name. So I'm used to that already, and it feels just another fight, And I hope to perform well. I've been training really hard, and yes, I look for a title shot pretty soon. Maybe not the next fight, but one or two more. After this fight, if everything goes well, there's someone I want to fight, and you guys are gonna know Saturday night if everything goes well.
So you'll announce your next opponent with a victory in the cage?
Yes, I will ask for him, and I hope the fight happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A quick question in Russian to Fyodor. Fyodor, я понимаю, что был очень сложный перелет. Нет какой-то подробной информации о подготовке вашей команды именно здесь. Потому что, может, это обманчивое впечатление, что немножко уставшие глаза, как джетлэг перенес, и как проходит подготовка именно здесь, в США.
The question, as far as understood, the flight to here was really very complicated, and it's a long flight. So we don't have any information about your training right here. So maybe that's just the, false impression, but the eyes maybe seem to be a little bit tired. So can you tell a few words about how the preparation, the training here takes place?
Спасибо большое. Нет, чувствую себя хорошо, спасибо. Перелет, были определенные трудности в перелете, но я восстановился и адаптировался. Тренируемся мы в замечательном зале, то есть я не испытываю никаких удобств. Тренировки сейчас легкие, подводящие к самому поединку.
So thank you very much for the question, but I feel really very good. Thanks very much. Yeah, there were some complications during the flight. So I recovered after the flight, and right now we work out in the beautiful gym, but the trainings are not really, very difficult. They're kind of light. That's preparation for the fight. So I feel myself really good.
Thanks. Dylan, real quick question for you. A couple days ago, it was posted that there was a comment that was made about you within 4 fights, kind of running the show at Bellator. Was that a comment that was taken out of context?
I think it was after one fight. It was after this weekend. I said I feel like I'll own the company. So, but yeah, that's what I said.
Scott, response to that?
I love it all, man. It's all good.
We'll be co-owners, so it's okay.
Dylan, there was alluded to that you were here a year ago in Chicago.
Yeah.
Obviously, a young fighter by the name of Steve Cazzola had called you out. That was a fight that wasn't put together. You end up getting Kyle Walker 12 months later. The difference between jiu-jitsu and now the full MMA game, was that enough time for you to train and get ready for this fight?
Yeah, 100%. I've been doing this martial arts since I was 15, so I don't see it as a couple months thing. I see it as a lifetime thing. I've been a martial artist since I was a kid. It's basically who I am, so it's not anything I need to prepare for because I've been doing it my whole life. I've been fighting my whole life, and yeah, I feel 100% prepared.
Questions for Frank. And Frank, I've seen you when you walked in and you sat and you really looked around and you've been really intently listening to what the fighters are saying, laughing and engaging. And how does this feel just to be around all of this again?
You know what, though? I have a blessing of knowing what it feels like for it to no longer be a part of it. Like, I think a lot of guys go throughout their career, and then when it's over with, they're like, man, I didn't enjoy it, I didn't appreciate it. But due to injuries I've had that's given me long layoffs, obviously the shit I've dealt with the last 2 years gave me some time off where I questioned whether or not I'd be fighting anymore. So I got to feel what it felt, that feeling of, well, this is no longer going to be a part of your life. And it was sad. It depressed the shit out of me. I was very upset about that. So being here with you guys, every moment's awesome. I mean, let's face it. I mean, whenever am I going to have the experience? How many more times am I going to be able to fight somebody, be up here, be a main event, be a part of the tournament, be fighting Fedor? These are moments that I'll never get back. And all of us, and that's one thing I don't think I enjoyed as much when I was younger, doing interviews and stuff, like, fuck this shit, you know what I mean? But now I realize, I'm like, hey, man, there's a day when no one's going to care anymore. You're going to be that guy that, maybe some stories that my grandchildren are going to want to hear, but other than that, move on to the next one. In this sport, people have about a 6-month memory period, and after that, it's like, are you still fighting? And so I very much enjoy this. This is fun. This is exciting. This is, going up there and being in a situation where I get to fight another world-class fighter. Look, man, thousands of people all over the country are doing this weekend. They're going to go compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments, wrestling tournaments, kids, adults, women, children, everybody, and they're paying to do it. Somehow in life, I figured out, like the rest of the guys up here, you guys are going to pay me to do this shit? This is awesome. It's unreal, it just blows my mind.
You've been in some of the biggest fights in the history of the sport and one of the highest grossing pay-per-views in MMA history. And where do you view this fight in terms of fighting Fedor compared to when you fought Brock?
Well, I mean, Fedor's much more established amongst the hard fans as a legitimate, greatest of all time conversation fighter. There's no comparison as far as abilities and what he's contributed to the sport as a martial artist. Fedor's in one direction, but it's funny, they're almost like polar opposites. As far as marketing purposes, Brock is the powerhouse. That guy, I mean, he could be 80 years old and say he's going to go sit on the toilet and people are going to buy tickets. You guys, think about it. Like right now, I'm going to come back, and everybody, I get asked questions about Brock as much as I get asked questions about Fedor. And me and Brock probably aren't fighting anytime soon. I mean, and so, but as far as contributions to the sport, being a well-rounded fighter, martial arts ability, Brock's not there. You know what I mean? Obviously, he doesn't, nowhere near the psychological toughness and strategist that Fedor is. So, as far as to hardcore fans, I think this is a more important fight with Fedor. As far as when I'm walking the airport and someone's mom sees me, I don't know if they'll know about this fight. I mean, as much just as far as, because that's how Brock is. He's just an anomaly. And that's, I mean, why we signed other guys here that are pro wrestlers. Pro wrestling just has its own fan base. It's unreal.
And I want to ask this, based off of what you said, Frank, I want to ask this to you and Fedor. Everyone's been talking about how big this fight is, and Matt brought it up earlier. And in terms of your legacy, win or lose, is this a legacy-defining fight for you guys, considering who you have faced in the past?
Yes, it is important. It's very important. You know, it's going to go down. I mean, when I fought Nogueira, that's important. I'm sure people bring that up to Fedor. We fought Nogueira, Mikko Krokop. When you are one of the faces of the sport, such as the handful of people that I just mentioned, when you face each other, that is brought up and it will be remembered. There'll be victories that have over the people that no one's ever going to care about. This is going to be a fight that people are going to remember, as far as not just people that are fans of myself and Fedor, but people that are fans of the sport. This is an iconic fight. It is. It's very important. And there's a lot of pressure on this fight.
And for Fedor, can you answer the question as well, just in terms of win or lose, what does this fight mean for your legacy?
Вопрос к вам, Федор, по поводу этого боя. Проиграете или победите? Насколько вы считаете, этот бой оставит след в истории, в вашей истории, в истории спорта?
Честно сказать, я не думаю об этом. Я думаю о том, чтобы удачно выступить и пройти в следующий круг.
Well, to speak frankly, well, I don't think about that. I'm thinking about great performance, to perform, and to continue participation in the tournament.
And one final question, one for Dylan. And how have you been able to keep everything focused and on the task at hand, considering all the hoopla that happened earlier in the month involving your team? How have you been able to keep it reeled in and stay focused on the fight?
My mind's, I just feel I know what I have to do, so that stuff doesn't, all the outside noise, you just got to find calmness in it. So, yeah, I feel 100% focused on this fight, and I've been focused on this fight for a while. I know what needs to be done, and nothing will change that.
Thank you, guys.
Sam, you and I talked yesterday, and you mentioned, in the other organization, you fought Brazilians in Brazil, and you fought the South Korean in South Korea, and Swedish guy in Sweden. And I went back and did the math, and I think 9 of your 12, you were fighting a guy either like in their exact area or, you fought a guy from Mexico like 2 miles from the Mexico border, so I kind of count that too. That's an astounding percentage. So I'm wondering if you can, I feel like back then you handled it differently than you feel like you're going to handle it now. So can you take me through the mentality of kind of crossing over that mental threshold of how you deal with things like that? Because again, now you're fighting a guy that's, 80 miles from his home base.
Yeah, and I feel like I was stuck in a role. I would get the call and I'd be like, oh, where are we going? I know I know they're going to ship me off to, fight the hometown or home country guy. And that's way different. The traveling and all that stuff is fighting in itself. You got to stay focused and it adds a bunch of outside stuff. But, my first fight here, to me, just somewhere neutral, fighting in the States to me is awesome, or somewhere like Vegas. And then, my first fight back going to Thackerville, I'm like, it's a better feeling. It's to me, it's more about the fight than anything else, and, it's more, I can think more competitively instead of being sold as this brawler that has to go do these things. I'm like, I have to win. That's it. You just got to focus on that. And, coming down here and fighting a guy that's on a roll, and that's why you get into the sport. And I'm the guy to step up and do that stuff, and, Cecilia and Sanchez is the fight to watch, for a reason right before that. That's why this card's going to be awesome. Right before two legends fight, you're going to see two guys fighting for a spot. One, is on a roll and believes he deserves that spot. And then the new guy that came in here and beat the former champ and now is, fighting a guy on a roll. Those are the fights that, I know he says he's going to watch it closely, but you'll just have to, you'll watch it, and the winner of this absolutely deserves the title shot. And, we put ourselves in that position, and now it's time to go execute, and the winner should go on. So, and like I said, from my wrestling history, I don't like filling out the brackets before, before it's done, otherwise you find yourself at home watching the championship. So right now, this task in front of me is a hard-working, tough guy, and, you know, and that loves fighting, and you're gonna see me, you know, and I love that stuff too. So, you know, and I look for a finish. He's never been finished, and you know, that's what makes good fights. You're not gonna see us take a step backwards, and we're gonna fight.
And Emmanuel, a similar question for you, kind of talking about sort of the mental side of the sport. And you had that stretch there where you had, I think, 4 straight split decisions. You had a majority decision in there. And I guess some of the frustrations that come with not knowing exactly what is going to happen when somebody's hand gets raised. Now you've had a couple more decisive fights. What is the difference like for you in the last 8-9 months or so because of those decisive fights compared to when you were having to deal with split decisions and not knowing how things were going to go?
I think you mentioned it well, just the mental side of it. You know, putting too much pressure on myself, thinking to go out there and kill. And then look at this table right here. This is a row of killers right here. So at this level, on any given day, how can you expect anyone to just go out and finish? You know, how do you really go and say, I'm going to knock this guy out or submit this guy right here easy in the first round? You know, the level of competition. This isn't, you know, like up and coming how it was. You know, when you start your career. Now I'm at the highest level with some of the best fighters in the world, guys with more finishes than I have wins or twice as amount of experience as me or whatever. So I still feel like I'm the young, new kid on the block, got to make a name for myself. And, you know, Sam said it best. It's mental. Nothing else matters. It's all what happens when that cage door closes. So for me, you know, a fight's a fight. And decision or finish or not, is everyone here excited about my fights?
Yes.
So, yeah, have I ever been in a boring fight? So, do I want it to be that way? No, I don't go to bed thinking, man, this is going to be like a Rocky movie and we're going to go toe-to-toe and blood and guts and all that crap. No, dude, I want to be pretty, man. Come on, I'm only 27. So I don't want to be, you know, beat up by 30. I want to have a long career, and then I want to look good and be able to do things after this as well. So I don't think like that. If people think toe-to-toe wars and stuff like that, sometimes it just happens to be that way. I don't want it to, but I'm taking the calculated, mental, strong approach. You know, I know what I got to go out and go do. You know, don't take a lot of punishment and get the job done. That's all that matters.
Question for Emmanuel. What does it mean to you be able to fight so close to home here in Chicago on Saturday night?
Again, aforementioned, just like how Sam said it too, didn't matter if it was here, if it was Washington. I used to live out in Oregon and Washington. So I started my pro career out there, actually. So if it was in Texas, Mexico, California, Brazil, wherever, you know, the Brazilians love me. You know what I mean? Obrigado, Brasil. You know, the Mexicans love me. I think the Russians love me too. The Polish love me, you know. So, yeah. So wherever this fight was to take place, it don't matter. You know what I mean? Like their backyard, my backyard. But a fight's a fight, and I love to fight, and he loves to fight, and that's gonna make for an exciting fight. So it doesn't matter to me. No pressure. Just go out and have fun and get the job done.
Absolutely. And question for Rafael: where do you think a win over a fellow tough, experienced veteran like Mr. Harris puts you in relation to a title opportunity?
Well, first, just quick correction. You can call me Rafael. I'm not Brazilian. A lot of people think that I am, and I get called Rafael a lot. My Brazilian friends can call me Rafael, but if you're American, I think just call me Rafael. Well, you know, like I said earlier, I think the change of opponent couldn't have worked out any better. You know, Gerald has a great reputation, a lot of experience. He's been in there with the best. He actually has a win over Salter from UFC days. So, you know, even though he's coming in late, I think, you know, he's still a dangerous opponent. He's got nothing to lose. He seems very motivated and happy to be here. So, I mean, that makes him dangerous. So, I think a quality, you know, a good win over him definitely still catapults me. And he's, you know, he's been there. So. I think he has like 3 or 4 times as many fights as I do. So I'm hoping that even though it's not Salter, you know, when my hand gets raised, they're still considering me, you know, as a number 1 contender.
Just a quick question for Scott, building off of what Rafael just said. Would it still be true for Gerald if he does beat Rafael tomorrow, Saturday night? Would it be a number 1 contender fight for him as well?
You know, these are some of the, you know, types of questions, I'd like to just wait till after the fight. Let's see how the fight goes, and then, like I said, we'll go back on Monday and we'll evaluate the performances, and then we'll go from there.
Scott, this tournament, I think, is just like breathed new life, a great life, a great energy. Are there any other thoughts of tournaments in other weight classes? And is there any consideration for a one-night tournament where multiple fights?
Yeah, there is consideration. It hasn't been finalized, but there is consideration for other weight classes to hold a World Grand Prix. I think that's something that we really would like to do. We're still trying to work out some details. But as far as a one-night tournament to have 8 people in one night, I think that's going to be hard to do in the U.S. because there's some athletic commissions that will not allow it now. And I don't think that we could go to different states and have different rules. And so I think that we would probably have to stick to the format of having a year-long tournament, or go to a 4-man tournament, which we've done before. But I really like this format. It's great storytelling. I hope you guys have been watching those digital pieces that these guys have been putting out. It's been unbelievable, and they're in the tens of millions of views. So I know this stuff has been doing very well for us and shot extremely well. And it's a great storytelling piece about the athletes. And I think that over a period of a year, you're going to get a great story at the end of the year. And the thing about it is Bellator doesn't have a heavyweight champion right now, so we will crown the champion at the end of the year.
Any final questions? One over there.
For Scott, are there alternates designated for this tournament? I haven't seen that anywhere as it moves forward.
You know what? We might as well announce it now. We do have an alternate fight, and it's happening Bellator 200 in London, and it's a fight between Mirko Krokop and Roy Nelson. So that will be for the first alternate spot. Whoever wins will be the alternate for the tournament in case somebody gets injured.
All right, great.
So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tomorrow at 1 p.m. at the Chicago Theater. We'll see everybody there for the weigh-ins. And one more thing, we have a post-fight show I'd like to announce. It'll be on our app featuring Jay Glazer and Chael Sonnen immediately following the fight. So download the app, and you'll get to watch the post-fight show with Jay and Chael. Thank you very much.